Lily Clark's hands were rough as sandpaper as she gripped my wrist tightly. I instinctively tried to pull away. But when my fingertips brushed the frayed edge of her sleeve, I suddenly froze. It was just like last time she used those very hands to push me out the sixth-floor window. The sound of creditors kicking down the door still echoed through the hallway. Yes, she smiled and said, "I never deserved to take my daughter's life away. Blair, your brother Wade is buying a house. He's still short of $200,000 for the down payment. You have to help him." Lily Clark's voice trembled with tears, but not a single drop fell from her eyes, just like I remembered. I stared at her familiar face, but my heart was racing not with fear, but with excitement. I was really reborn, back to the moment she first forced me to lend money to my brother, Mom. I just graduated, and my monthly salary is only $5,000. How am I supposed to come up with $200,000? I deliberately lowered my head, playing the victim, but my fingertips clenched tightly inside my pocket. In my last life, I was too naive, fooled by her tears. I secretly took out online loans and fell into a bottomless pit. Lily Clark furrowed her brow as expected, her tone turning heavy. "You think I don't know? Your company is a big firm. All your co-workers are wealthy. What's wrong with borrowing from them?" She paused, then softened her voice. "Besides, your brother dropped out of school for you. If it weren't for supporting you through university back then, aged have long ago, he dropped out because he landed a classmate in the hospital and was expelled by the school." I lifted my head to cut her off. Watching her face freeze instantly, I snorted coldly inside. I believed these lies for a full 10 years in my previous life, only hearing the truth from my foster father James Lee just before I died. Lily Clark's face darkened. "How can you talk like that, kid? Your father and I have raised you all these years, and this is how you repay us." My college tuition was covered by a student loan, and I earned my living expenses by handing out flyers and tutoring. "You never gave me a single cent." I spoke every word deliberately, watching the coldness grow in her eyes. She probably never expected me, usually so obedient, to suddenly talk back. She was stunned for a long moment before she finally reacted. "Still, now that you have a job, shouldn't you be helping support the family?" She kept arguing, but her grip loosened. "If you don't lend me the money, I'll go to your company and talk to your boss. Let them decide who's right." It was the same trick again. In my last life, she caused such a scene at my company that I lost my job. I took a deep breath, pressing down the hatred in my heart, and deliberately put on a compromising act. "Mom, I'll try. I'll ask my classmates to see if they can help out." Lily Clark's eyes immediately lit up. She grabbed my hand and started nagging again. "You have to borrow a lot, ideally $30,000, so your brother can also pitch in for the renovation." I nodded, watching her leave satisfied, then leaned against the door and slowly closed my eyes. The phone in my pocket vibrated. It was the number I saved last night. After I died in my previous life, my soul wandered for a long time before finally finding my biological parents. Their surname is Sean, they're in the industrial business, and their family is well off. Yet, because they lost their daughter, they've been unhappy all these years. With trembling hands, I dialed the number when a steady male voice came through the receiver. Tears suddenly streamed down my face. "Hello? May I ask who is calling?" "Dad." I choked on my words, my voice trembling. There was a long silence on the other end. Just when I thought the call would be cut off, his trembling voice came through. Where are you?" I gave them the address of the rented room, and even after hanging up, my fingers were still trembling. I walked over to the mirror, staring at the face that was both strange and familiar. This face resembled Yale Sean's mother by about 70%. In my previous life, when Yale's mother saw me, she held me and cried for a whole hour. About 40 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I rushed to open the door, and outside stood a middle-aged couple. The man wore a suit, his hair streaked with gray. The woman wore a simple dress, her eyes red and swollen. They were Yale Sean and Wendy Scott. "Blair?" Wendy Scott was the first to speak, her voice uncertain, but her eyes locked tightly on my face. I looked at her, tears streaming down again. "Mom." She immediately rushed over and hugged me, her sobs unstoppable. "My daughter, Mom has finally found you." Yale Sean stood off to the side, his eyes red as well. He reached out and patted my back but said nothing, his gaze full of pain and tenderness. We went to the paternity testing center. While they drew blood, Wendy Scott kept holding my hand, as if afraid I might run away. During those hours waiting for the results, Yale Sean told me what happened back then. Lily Clark used to be their nanny. Just days after I was born, she quit, and only later did they discover their daughter had been switched. We've been searching for you all these years, but Lily Clark wiped every trace clean. Yale Sean sighed. At first, we thought that girl was you, but her blood type didn't match ours, and her personality became increasingly rebellious. That's when we became sure she wasn't our daughter. I knew he was talking about Vivian Lee, Lily Clark's biological daughter, who had occupied the life that should have been mine in my previous life. When the paternity test report came out, Wendy Scott stared at the words excluded biological relationship and cried even harder. Blair, I'm sorry you had to suffer. It's all Daddy and Mommy's fault. Mom, it's not your fault. I held her tightly, finally feeling a sense of peace in my heart. I had finally found my family. Yale Sean pulled me close, his voice firm. Blair, come home with Daddy and Mommy. The hardships from before will never happen again. He paused, then said again, Lily Clark's family, we won't let them off. We'll make sure they pay for what they've done. When I returned to the Sean family villa, I still felt a little dazed. Wendy Scott had prepared a south-facing room for me, filled with new clothes and dolls, all selected to fit my age and preferences. I didn't know what you like, so I asked the assistant to buy some random things. If you're not happy with them, we can always exchange them. Wendy held my hand as she showed me around the room, her eyes full of guilt. You should have been living like this all these years, Mom. I really like it. I looked at her and spoke sincerely. In my previous life, I lived in a tiny rented room barely over 10 square meters, with cold drafts in winter and stifling heat in summer. It never had a warm room like this. During dinner, Yale Sean told me to start working at his company next week, beginning as an assistant to gradually get familiar with the business. If you don't want to go to the company, that's okay too. Dad and Mom can support you. Wendy Scott immediately added, worried that I might feel pressured. I want to go, Dad, Mom. I want to get familiar with the company as soon as possible. I shook my head. In my previous life, I worked in a big company managing projects, so I was no stranger to the workplace. Besides, I wanted to grow quickly to protect my family. In the days that followed, I kept adjusting to my new life. Wendy Scott made me breakfast every morning, always switching up the flavors. Yale Sean found time to teach me how to read the company's reports, patiently explaining everything. The feeling of being cared for was something I'd never experienced before, and it made me cherish this life even more. On the 5th day, my phone suddenly rang, and the caller ID displayed Mom. It was Lily Clark. I hesitated for a moment but answered, curious to see what scheme she was planning this time. Blair, have you managed to borrow the money? Wade's house down payment is due next week. Lily Clark's voice was urgent. She spoke before I could say a word. I asked a few classmates, but none of them have much money. They've only had $10,000 altogether. Is that okay? I deliberately lowered my voice, pretending to be desperate. Lily Clark immediately snapped, $10,000? Are you kidding me? Did you even try to borrow from them? I did ask, but they really don't have any money. I kept up the act. Mom, why don't you ask Wade to wait a bit longer? Let me help once my salary goes up. Wait? How can we wait? The landlord said if the down payment isn't made by next week, he'll sell the house to someone else. Lily Clark's voice got louder. I don't care. You have to come up with the money today, or it'll go to your company and cause a scene, making sure you can't work. I sneered silently to myself. She had no idea I had already left that company a long time ago. Mom, I've already resigned. I don't have a job anymore. I said it on purpose, just to see how she would react. Lily Clark was stunned for a moment, then even angrier. You resigned? Why didn't you discuss it with me first? Are you purposely trying not to help Wade? It wasn't on purpose. It was a company layoff. I was laid off. I kept going. Jobs are hard to find these days. I really have no choice. Who are you trying to fool? I think you just don't want to help out at home. Lily Clark's voice was full of anger. Just wait. I'm heading to your rented place now. If you don't pay up, I'm not leaving. After saying that, she hung up. I told Yale Sean and Wendy Scott what the caller said. Wendy immediately frowned. Lily Clark's gone too far. Don't pay her any mind. I'll have the bodyguard handle this. Yale Sean nodded too. Don't worry. With us here, she won't be able to hurt you. Not long after, the bodyguard called and said Lily Clark went to my old rented apartment. Finding no one there, she then went to my former company and caused a scene, but was chased out by the security guards. She's still downstairs at the company, yelling that she's waiting for you to show up. The bodyguard's voice was calm. General Manager Sean, should we take her away? No need, let her cause a scene. Once she's had her fill, She'll leave on her own. Yale Sean put down the phone and looked at me. Blair, if she comes looking for you again, just ignore her. Leave it to us to handle. I nodded, but deep down I knew Lily Clark wouldn't let this go that easily. Sure enough, the next morning, Wendy Scott received a call from Vivian Lee. Vivian's voice was filled with pride. Mom, I heard you're hosting a reception to announce that I'm the company's heir. I'm currently abroad. Can I still make it back in time? I stood to the side, hearing her words, and couldn't help but laugh. She still thought the Sean family would always treat her like their own daughter. Not knowing her good days were long gone, Wendy Scott glanced at me, her tone calm. You can still make it. Come back. After hanging up, Wendy Scott touched my head. Her coming now is perfect. It saves us the trouble of hunting her down. Yale Sean smiled as well. At tomorrow's reception, everyone will know the truth. Early the next morning, Wendy Scott took me to the dress shop to choose a white gown and applied light makeup for me. Looking at myself in the mirror, I could hardly recognize who I was before. I always wore cheap clothes. My hair was a mess, never this polished. Our Blair is truly beautiful. Wendy Scott looked at me, her eyes full of pride, so much prettier than Vivian Lee. I couldn't help but smile, linking my arm with hers as we walked to the reception venue together. The event was held in a banquet hall of a 5-star hotel. Many people had already arrived, including Yale Sean's business partners and quite a few reporters. As soon as I stepped into the hall, I spotted Vivian Lee dressed in a red evening gown, her hair curled into big waves, chatting and laughing with several socialites, looking utterly pleased with herself. She saw me too and frowned slightly, probably not recognizing me. It wasn't until Wendy Scott and I approached her that she exclaimed in shock, Mom, who is she? Why are you walking with her? Before Wendy Scott could say a word, Lily Clark, James Lee, and Wade Lee came over as well. Lily Clark saw me. Her eyes immediately reddened. She rushed up, trying to grab my hand. Blair, why are you here? Did you come looking for Wade? Have you managed to gather the money? I took a step back, pulling away from her hand. Wendy Scott immediately stepped in front of me, her voice icy cold. Lily Clark, what are you trying to do? Lily Clark froze for a moment before realizing Wendy Scott was speaking to her. Her face instantly turned awkward. Ms. Scott, I'm just looking for my daughter. This doesn't concern you, does it?